Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Giving Gap TV. I'm Tina Brown, Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Giving Gap. And today we are joined with Ms. Doris Moore, who is founder and CEO for the Center of Holistic Development in Omaha, Nebraska. Welcome, Ms. Doris.
Well, thank you, Tina. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. So we're really excited. It is May. It is Children's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're really excited about some of the things you have going on at CHD. So first, I want you to talk to everybody a bit about what inspired you to establish the Center for Holistic Development back in 2001, and maybe how your mission has evolved over these past 2 decades.
Okay. Let's see. I guess the best way to start is really to talk about I developed a deep love for really wanting to understand how people think, how it impacts their life, and how it helps them to move forward. And so as I was going through my counseling program, I discovered that there were no programs specifically designed to work with the African American community. And being a product of the 70s, I really understand how trauma, racism, violence, all of those things really impact our lives. And I really wanted to do what I could to help people understand that you don't have to accept things as they are. You can change things, but it's really a mental and a mindset that helps you to move in a different direction. And so with that, having no real understanding or knowledge of running a business, I decided that I wanted a nonprofit because I wanted to make sure that people who could not afford our services would be able to get those services based on, funding and grants and being able to accept people who are on Medicaid and those kinds of programs. So started out as a solo practitioner, basically, kind of doing a little bit of everything, as well as being a licensed mental health therapist myself. Had one person that joined with me who was very much committed to doing this work. And I tell people her name was Betty Nellum, and I tell people she was the hardest working woman that I know. She worked from sun up to sundown, working with kids and families. We called her the kid whisperer because she could work with any child and be able to help them to move in a different direction. And I think the other piece that was connected with the organization is because there is so much stigma that's associated with mental health and mental illness, and just people really don't understand what it is. I made sure that a part of what we did was not just provide intervention services, but to make sure that people understood what we were doing, who was doing it, why it needed to be done, and how we can do it in a way that really honored who we are as people, our culture, and those kinds of things. I tell people, again, the reason I started the organization, I tell people was to work myself out of a job, basically by seeing people not just in crisis, but actually helping them understand the importance of prevention, education, outreach, as well as intervention. And so that's really how we started. Started with a small, committed board of directors, and none of us knew what we were doing, but we just kind of kept doing it and have made it right now to, this is our 24th year in business. So I think we're doing something right.
Yes, you are definitely doing something right. And I love the fact, Ms. Doris, that you saw a gap in your community and you decided to fill it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't necessarily have all the knowledge and resources, but you made it work.
I think it's one of those things where, I'm a pretty spiritual person. And so I think that there was some divine intervention as we moved through doing this work. But I really became committed to just helping people understand that if your mental and emotional health is not doing well, then your life probably is spiraling in the same kind of way. So just helping them understand how to move through that and how to become the best people that we can be.
100%. And I love your point about not just for times of crisis, but also just prevention, which we don't talk enough about, right? Because when people hear therapy or counseling, they sometimes think, this trauma and all this thing, but there could be just, the day-to-day preventative measures that you take to keep your mental health in the right place.
100%. I think sometimes one of the challenges is that we really don't see that there are some extenuating circumstances and risk factors that will kind of indicate that you may have some struggles coming up later in your life as you move through life. And so knowing that, I think it gives us an opportunity to work on the front end. And even when we're talking about working with our children, one of my challenges and greatest joys is to help parents understand that even though you may not have been raised with nurturing and love and, or you came out of the foster care system, it doesn't mean that you have to take on some of the challenges that were associated with that. You can do something totally different and move your life in a different direction, thus moving your children's lives in a different direction.
What a great message and very powerful. So let's talk a little bit about CHD's sort of everyday programming. So we know there's Real Talk, I believe, Urban Youth, Bolt. Can you just talk a little bit about those programs and what they actually provide our young folks?
Okay. Yeah, we have a variety of programs. Like I said, we go from prevention through intervention. And so programs specifically designed for our youth and our children we have a program called Kid Squad. And Kid Squad is a program that we do in collaboration with another organization here in Omaha. And our whole goal is to reduce the number of children being kicked out of preschool. So wow. Believe it or not, 2 and 3-year-olds are being kicked out of preschool. And it's usually because of some challenging behaviors that they have. And, teachers don't understand how to work with them. And so we go into the child care center. We work with the teachers and staff, and we just help them to understand how building up the social and emotional skills of the young people, the children they're working with, will help them to not have these challenging behaviors. And so that's one of our programs that we've been doing for over 10 years. Another program we have is Real Talk. I am very committed and convinced that when we understand our feelings and emotions and are able to recognize them, then we're able to make those changes that'll help us to better interact with other people, as well as knowing what to do when we're just kind of out of sorts for whatever reason. And so Real Talk goes into a variety of our elementary schools and community organizations, and we just talk to kids about feelings and emotions, and not just the negative ones. I mean, we all know about people that are either mad, sad, happy, or glad. We kind of lump it into 4 primary feelings and emotions, but we have so many more than that. We respond differently when we know that we're bored, or we're distracted, or we're frustrated, or when we're grieving, or when we're, so just helping people to put a name to it so that they understand what's going to need to happen so that they can move beyond that.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, that's one of our programs too. And I think that, again, there are some adults, in my opinion, that don't understand, and we get messages as we grow up about, you shouldn't be angry, or you shouldn't cry, and, all of those kinds of messages. But we're human, and we have human responses. And so to give people some tools on how to deal with those when we have is really important. So that's another program that we do, specifically focused on our children and our youth. And then the Urban Youth Bolt program you mentioned is a program that we were requested to provide specifically for our African American youth who were being introduced to the juvenile justice system at earlier and earlier ages. And so we wanted to create a program that specifically dealt with helping those youth understand just who they are, helping them to determine a purpose, helping them to become the best people they can be, and also to provide them with some leadership skills so that they do things that are very much different than what they had been doing before. And out of that program, we've had a variety of successes with the youth who attend the diversion program. About 70% of them don't have any more problems with the juvenile justice system. So we find that as a win. So we don't just believe in dealing with the youth themselves, but we incorporate the family, the parents. So we have parenting education, we have counseling that are part of the wraparound services. We also provide a connection with the school. We had one success story where one of the youth was behind in credits and was not going to be able to graduate with their class. But once they completed the class that we offered, they were able to catch up on their credits and able to graduate with their class. So,
Wow.
there are things that we do to just kind of help people understand that, there are different ways to do things that are going to help you to achieve your goals and your purpose.
I love that. And I love that you've shared already some really great success stories of how the programming is actually helping our youth. So, Ms. Doris, do you have any other examples that you'd like to share that sort of highlights the impact that CHD is making in the community?
One other thing that comes to mind is, well, actually, there's a couple other things that come to mind. One is there was a young lady whose son was just, struggling, and she couldn't quite figure out why. And she had gone to several other professionals, and it turned out that they weren't able to give her what she needed. One of our therapists got involved, came up with the diagnosis for this young person. And once that diagnosis was made and they were able to follow through with the treatment plan, she says that it really saved her son's life because he was headed in a direction that was not going to lead to a positive end. And so that's another success story, especially when, again, there are challenges when we talk about mental illness and diagnoses and people really understanding, does my kid need to be on medication? Those kind of things are what we try to answer as a therapist, and making sure that people really understand how this can benefit your youth. Or maybe there are times when it's not just about medication. Maybe it's about creating a structure where these kids understand how to move through and give them some sense of purpose in what they're doing. So that's another success story. But I think one of the greatest ones that really connects with what we're doing, and I'm going to move into our gala that's coming up this June. And it really is helping parents understand the importance of being involved in their kids' lives, and how that can make the change that's going to help them be successful. Our annual fundraising gala is coming up June 26th. And this is our 15th annual gala. And this year, our keynote speaker is Dr. Mahalia Hines, who just happens to be Common's mom. And she has written a book, and I'm going to have to look at the title because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But she has written a book called Tomorrow's Children: How to Raise Children to Stay Human in a High-Tech Society. And so she's going to come and share some information on what she's learned. She's been an educator all of her life in Chicago, and she just has some great words of wisdom that will help parents understand their role in helping their children be successful, as well as early childhood educators and the connection between that and potentially mental health concerns. So we're really trying to create this environment where we're changing the mindset, connected on how we can really maximize the potential that our kids have. And we have to start thinking that our kids are amazing. They can do anything, and we have to be part of the solution to help that.
Absolutely. And I understand that the theme this year is Dare to Believe.
Our theme has always been, since this is our 15th year, but I tell people my favorite word is believe. Because I just believe that if you don't believe in something, then you're not going to be able to achieve it. And so I really challenge people to dare to believe that, we have amazing kids out here, kids who can do things that we may have never thought of, but we have to provide them with the resources to be able to do that. And so I challenge people to dare to believe that change can happen and we can move things from where they are now to a better place.
Absolutely. So tell us, Ms. Doris, how can folks support the gala if they're in the Omaha area? Are there tickets to purchase? Are there different tiers? Or folks just want to contribute? Tell us how we can help and support.
I think the easiest way for people to support the Center for Holistic Development is to hop onto our website. It is www.chdomaha.org. And on that, under the events tab, you will find the flyers that promote both our annual fundraising gala and the levels of sponsorship. You click on that and it will take you to the levels of sponsorship or provide you an opportunity to just donate to the organization. And one of the other things that we've always done in connection with our gala is we provide a conference the next day.
Wow. Okay.
And so Dr. Hines will be there at the conference, and it gives people a little more intimate way to have some conversations about these things that we're talking about. So there will be opportunities for parents to connect with Dr. Hines or with other professionals that are in the room, as well as early childhood providers and a mental health therapist. We'll just kind of talk about those things that are needed to help children be successful. And we'll have a book signing as well for people who are in attendance and who want to purchase a book. And we will just really provide an opportunity for people to get more information on how to help their children be the best children that they can be.
Love that. Love that. So folks, please hop onto the website. We'll be sure to include all this information in the description and details of this video, so we'll be able to easily click and get there. So Ms. Doris, you've been at this for a while, okay? Over 2 decades, and yet you're only 25. It's amazing.
It's amazing what makeup can do, right?
So I just want you to talk to us a little bit about, what are your aspirations? I mean, where do you see the future of CHD going? What would you like to see? Are you yourself maybe going to take a step back? Is that even possible? So what is the future? What does the future look like?
Well, I believe the future for the Center for Holistic Development is really bright. One of the things that we've always done is we really kind of look at what some emerging needs are in our community specifically. We have an event called Brighter Days because, believe it or not, suicide numbers are increasing for the Black community and for kids in general. And so we really want to focus on helping people understand that people die by suicide, even in the Black community. And we need to help people understand what they can do to reduce those numbers. And so we do a walk and a rally just to bring attention to it. Last year was our second year doing it. We had over 60 participants to walk around a pond here in Omaha. And this year's event will be held August 23rd at Benson Park. We're still working on getting some of that information on our website, but that's just one of the emerging kinds of issues that we want to make sure that we're helping people understand. The other thing that we're doing is working on domestic violence and intimate partner violence issues, because again, we understand if children are raised in a home where there's been a lot of violence and trauma, then it's hard for them not to understand that that may be something that's common in their environment. Right. And we want to change that perspective. We want to make sure that they understand that just because you're in those environments doesn't mean that you have to become part of that, the challenge that goes with those environments. So I think, with mental health, mental illness, even some of the things that are going on today, I tell people, we're in an environment where fear, hate, anxiety are things that are happening every day in our lives. And we have to make sure as people that we're breathing. That's what I tell people all the time, breathing from your diaphragm, because that's going to help you to reduce the anxiety that's in your body that can end up becoming a physical ailment as well. I think the other thing that I see in the future for the Center for Holistic Development is there hopefully will be some legacy that is still here. I am hopefully moving toward retirement at the end of 2026. That will be 25 years of me being the founder of this organization. And while I still am very passionate about the work that we're doing, I just don't have the same level of energy that I did when I started this 25 years ago. So really looking at someone else to kind of take over the helm of the organization and continue to move it forward, because I see the needs are still there. The need for mental health work and need for people to focus on their mental wellness is still a challenge that we are going through in this day and age. I think the professionalism of some of the workers in this area, we need to continue to build that up, because the need is great, but we're struggling with finding practitioners that are able to provide this level of service. So I see nothing but good things happening for the Center for Holistic Development. And I pray that I am still around to make sure that I see that happen.
Absolutely, Ms. Dora, and you will surely be here. You will surely be here.
Probably because I'm a little stubborn, so
Right. That is wonderful. I am so excited about the future for Center of Holistic Development. What the foundation you've laid is incredible. So first of all, we thank you for your service in the Omaha community for nearly 25 years. And job well done, right? I think we'll continue to see this. And so I'm hoping that people hear this message and maybe there'll be some interest in, joining the team, and somebody sees like, hey, I could see myself, coming in and taking the helm, maybe. You never know.
Great. So, yeah. We're always looking, always hiring, and feel very blessed that we're in a position right now where we are hiring and we're looking for people who want to continue this work.
That's fantastic. And at a minimum, you can write a check.
That is true. Donations are great.
Yes. Always accepting donations. So we'll make sure that all of those links, as I mentioned, are in the description of this video so folks can click and get to where they need to get. But Ms. Doris, we thank you for joining us today. This has been a wonderful conversation, and we thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate the work that you're doing as well, because I think bringing attention to concerns and issues and the work that's being done is important. So I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.